Right, let's see how this works. A new stream and see how we get on with this. I might actually record the whole thing separately and put it up as a separate live stream. But anyway, it'd be good to see whether anybody can see this. Good morning, Christos. Nice to see you there. I saw that Helia and various others were there as well, and Joan finding it. So we'll see what happens there. There's Bev. And Joan, good morning, Joan. Hopefully I'll see you in the next couple of 3 weeks. Be nice. Hello, Suzanne. This seems to be a bit better. So let's see if this works. If it does, I'm going to use this other way of doing this in the future. Yeah, I'm back. So, but it'll be back on a different stream. So I'll probably delete them and put a new one up. Anyway, we were saying with what is going on here? There's a sudden, unannounced, catastrophic, irreversible catastrophe. Anything, and the same can happen to us. I mean, there could be anything from a car crash, as said the other day, through to a heart attack, to the universal end of all humanity. So I'm off to Lebanon, where the driving, I have to say, is a little bit dodgy. So I always make sure I'm well insured when I'm there. Through to me having a heart attack, equally possible. So I'm insured about that as well. To universal end. Now, there's nothing I can insure over for having a universal end. Only a little bit dodgy. The driving in Lebanon. Father Hananiah, I always call him this. Father Hananiah Stewart, or Father Jackie, because he drives like he's very, very fast. He's very delightful, but he's also very, very fast. St. Bede says about this universal catastrophic end that came to people in these stories, that we need to notice that they're going about their everyday life. There's not something unusual or strange that's happening. They're doing what they always do. So, and you'll notice that the writer, St. Luke, has not said anything at all about the very lurid behavior of the men of Sodom. Also, while the ark is being built, and everybody's laughing at Noah for building the ark and saying, what a useless waste of time that is. The wicked are flourishing, they're eating, they're drinking, they're getting married, they're buying, they're selling, and all those normal sorts of things. And it's the same right now. The holy people of God, fasting, praying, living ascetical lives, attending to their souls, doing good, and so on, while other people feather their nests, they are reviled for their spiritual warfare. But the time will come when those people who have persevered to the end will be crowned, whilst the wicked will actually disappear like smoke in the wind. Okay? The overall point of this, the Lord is saying, that the day of the Son of Man will be sudden, shocking, a surprise. We won't be able to say this will be the day when it's going to happen. Okay? Emphasized also in verse 31, in that day, he who is on the housetop and his goods are in the house, let him not come down to take them away. And likewise, the one who is in the field, let him not turn back. Okay? Very sudden. No time to do anything about it. You're up in the house, don't go down into the house. You're in the field, don't run off to you won't have time. It's too late then to think about changing your life and living an ascetical life, living a good life. The day of the Son of Man will absolutely overwhelm you, and that's it. I remember there's a story about somebody or other who wanted to win the Carnation Prize in the annual flower show, but he only began tending his flowers the day before the show, and naturally, of course, nothing came of his flowers. And when he spoke to the person who won, the man explained to him that for the last several years, he had been tending the flowers and deadheading them and looking after them, and watering them and fertilizing them and digging around them and weeding around them and so on. And it's the same with our lives. There's no point in coming to the Lord on the day of the great flower show in heaven and saying, here are my few weeds, what do you think of them? And say, yeah, you're right, they're few weeds. Whereas the person who has always tended the garden that is their own person, that person will find themselves acceptable in the kingdom of heaven. I can't remember who it was, but I think it was the abbot of Holy Cross Monastery in West Virginia who said, he's probably quoting one of the fathers, who said, what people tend to do is look over the fence into other people's gardens and criticize other people's gardens without tending to the flowers and pulling the weeds up in their own garden. It's a very good thing to remember. Okay? Then it says, remember Lot's wife. Now, this is a new thing. People tend to think of it as being referring to the previous verse, but it doesn't. Remember Lot's wife, he's saying. It's a new little subject. I know it's in the same paragraph as the last one in this Bible, but really, the Lord is starting off something new. He wants you to remember what happened to Lot's wife. Well, what she was doing was this. She was looking back on her former life. She longed to be back where she used to be in her home and her comfort and so on. But here there's no turning back, no delay, no stopping to look back. It's an impressive warning. If you take up the life of God, if you take up the life as a disciple, you need to press on forward, keep on going into it. You cannot look back and say, oh, well, I wish I was back in Sodom, because that happens. Actually, you lose everything. And the story about Lot's wife is that she turned into a pillar of salt. It's probably what's called an etiological story, meaning there were pillars of salt there, and the story is then told in order to make sense of the pillars of salt. But as so often, there's a deep truth within it that if we begin this leaving sin behind, we must not look back and try and live with one foot in both camps. You cannot be both with Abraham and also with Sodom and Gomorrah. Not possible. The Lord continues, whoever seeks to save his life will lose it. Whoever loses his life will preserve it. Okay, so a complete abandonment of your own self. If you abandon yourself, you take up your cross, as we heard on Sunday in the Divine Liturgy with the services of the cross. You take up the cross. Actually, that is the way of God. That is the way of Christ. And you continue into infinity. If, on the other hand, you seek to preserve your life, have your own life, as it were, ask God for your own life back, which is a very great temptation to do, you'll have your life. But in clinging to it, you will lose eternity. You have to throw yourself on God's care and do his commandments. And despite all worldly calamity, you will be saved. The Lord continues, verse 34 to 36. I tell you, and there's like an oath, isn't it? In that night, there'll be two in one bed. The one will be taken, the other will be left. Two will be grinding together, that means they're milling flour. The one will be taken and the other left. Two will be in the field. The one will be taken and the other one will be left. So, in the safety of the house, in the daily work of women, in the daily work of men, the closeness of two people and even their corporate actions working together, the Lord knows their hearts. The one will be taken, saved, that is, the other one will be left, destroyed. This has got nothing whatever, by the way, to do with what Protestants talk about with the rapture. That is a very modern idea. Everybody, in the end, has to go through the calamities that belong to the world. We can see that in the life of the apostles and the life of the early Christians, or for the life of the Christians in Russia in the last century. The fact you were a Christian did not save you from anything that was going to go on. You just went through and had to put up with the horrors of what happened. And many people died, sometimes horrifically, eaten by lions, burned alive, died in the gulags and so on. But those ones also, because they gave their lives to Christ, would find them in Christ later on. This seems to be a better internet access, by the by, doesn't it? It seems to be working better. I don't think it's been misbehaving itself, which is good. Verse 37, they, that's the disciples, answered and said to him, where, Lord? They're looking to find out where and when this is going to happen. Well, the Lord said, so he said to them, wherever the body is, there the eagles will be gathered together. So, there's a certainty about this, and a horrific certainty about it too. I am told that when people cross from Mexico into the United States and they die on the way, the rangers who patrol the border look out for vultures. And when they see the vultures, they know there's going to be a human corpse underneath it. A horrific thing. So the sign of the corpse, the vulture, is a sure sign of what's going to happen. The destruction will be self-evident. You won't need to think, where's it happening? You'll see it all around you, the vultures and dead bodies everywhere. In the same way, the judgment will be self-evident. It'll be very obvious. The fathers argue actually about all of this. Some of them say the souls of the righteous will be like vultures flying above the corpses, remote from the corpses of the damned. And others say, well, actually, it's the rulers of the world who are the vultures who will be feeding upon the corpses of the rest of the world. The rulers of the world, of course, Satan and the demons. So an idea there, two different ideas about the end times from the fathers, both of which are fairly horrific. Right, let's see what people have been saying, quite a lot. Looks like this is quite a good internet connection, so we'll stay with this later on. We've managed to collect Christos and Beverly and Joan, good. Joan will be in the north on Friday and Saturday, good. Hopefully you'll be able to see me, it'll be great if you can. God willing, I'll be in Balamand. I'm not quite sure what I'm doing on the 25th. I might be in Balamand. On the other hand, I might be in Batramim and celebrating with Father Hananiah. So I'll be in one or the other, I guess. Ian, thank you very much. Greece is not far away from Lebanon. Stop here on your return. I'd like to, but I'm not going to this time. God willing, I should be going to either to Lebanon and then Cyprus later on in the year again. And it'd be good to stop off in Greece on the way back from there too. Good, I'm glad things are working well. The Rapture. We'll have to look this up. It's not something that I'm particularly au fait with. But the idea is that before the final calamitous times, evangelical Protestants, mainly in America, teach that those who have been good and have given their lives to Christ, no matter how badly they then live their lives, will be caught up in the clouds of heaven, and all the bad things will only happen to the unrighteous who are left behind. That is the way that they teach about that. It's not actually at all, in any sense, patristic, or in any sense a doctrine of any part of the church, until I think the 1950s. Good morning, Troubadour and Fog. Your prayers. It's interesting though, some years ago, quite a number of years ago, Joan, I'm not sure how to catch me. Anyway, I'll have a new telephone number. So maybe you need to email me your telephone number, and I will get a new SIM card when I arrive in Lebanon, and I can then phone you. What was I saying? The Rapture. Some years ago, quite a number of years ago, 30 odd years ago, I ate with the senior admiral and his wife of the American fleet. I eat with all sorts of extraordinary people. Anyway, I was invited to dinner with these two, and he and I, corporately, were the two guests of honor. And I got chatting to his wife, and she started talking about the rapture. And I said something, I started off, your husband's the admiral, the senior admiral. This must mean that he's got an enormous responsibility because, of course, he'll be the one who actually gives the command to send all those nuclear bombs all over the world. She said, oh, yes, she said, that's exactly right. So, well, that must be quite a problem. So, she said, it doesn't really matter. So, why not? She said, because the rapture will mean that I will be saved from this, and my husband will be saved from this, and you will be as well, Father, and we'll be caught up into the clouds of heaven, and the bombs will land on those people who are not caught up in the clouds of heaven. I said, so do you think then that the atomic bombs are the clouds of heaven? And she said, well, my husband, I think this is a very good interpretation of those verses. And my heart, as you can probably imagine, sank. Oh my goodness. Rather horrific. Anyway, there we go. Yeah, Joan, send me via Facebook, because I'll be able to pick that up when I arrive on Thursday. I'll put it into my phone on WhatsApp anyway, so I'll be able to talk that way and use the internet in Balamand, which is even worse, the internet here. Okay, it probably is, you're quite right, it probably is a misinterpretation of Thessalonians. But clearly, we need to try and say to people, no, don't think that's the case. Right, I've got plenty to do. I was walking yesterday and suddenly my shoes developed a hole in the bottom of them. So I need to go and get myself some new clothing, new shoes. So I'll probably be hobbling around Lebanon, walking them in the next day or two, but I can't go around with shoes with big holes in the bottom. Okay, right. Some Catholics say I do the end times too. Yes, well, we have to be very careful about what we say. And the Lord makes it quite clear that the end times are none of our business, really. What we need to be is prepared. Elsewhere, he talks about arriving like a thief in the middle of the night. We have to have that in our mind as well. Just be ready. Be ready to accept him, welcome him in. Say, right, I've been expecting you. Come and feast in my heart. Let me feast in yours. Okay? Righto. I won't be back here until the 4th of April. Maybe I shall be able to put some shorts up on, not the shorts you wear, but the shorts you put up on, like reels on Facebook, aren't they? And you'll be able to see odds and ends of what I'm doing in Lebanon. I'm looking forward to it immensely. I love it there. Thank you very much indeed, Patrick. God bless you and keep you.